Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Vihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Raman Nasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu me Bho Rama Mamuddhara Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaha te mayi santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mrutam. Hari Om, everyone. Good to see you all in person after a long time. I'm also getting familiar with hybrid back again. I was getting used to the online one now. We had seen the fourth mantra of second chapter. Very, very important mantra. Very powerful mantra for Nidhidhiyasanam. We had seen that entire Drshta Viveka. This is that prakriya, this is that method on which it is based. But to appreciate the depth of that mantra, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji gave us different pointers. If it is said, knowledge brings fearlessness, right? Atmana vindate viryam. In what way does it bring fearlessness? How does knowing myself to be Drshta make me fearless? For that, all this elaboration was there, which we saw in the last session. That anything which brings fear, it falls under Drshya. So more one is able to keep Drshya away in the form of this physical body. But if you want to make it simpler, everything boils down to thoughts, right? So over here, if you see, birth and death, even those are thoughts, even those are known as vrittis, knowing ourselves to be Drshta of that vritti. I am that Chaitanya in which all these things are illumined. And that is why whenever we do this discussion, it becomes very, very important to keep going back to sadhana chatushtaya. Unless you appreciate that portion, this part will not appeal to us. So in sadhana chatushtaya, what was said? That this sadhaka is a mumukshu. And he has had sufficient experiences by which he is able to distinguish what is eternal, what is ephemeral. So the ephemeral is Drshya. And eternal is that Chaitanya in which he is trying to abide. Mumuksha also is the same, right? His desire is only one, that I want to abide in my own Atma Swarupa. If we are doing the practice of meditation, this struggle should come to every sadhaka. What is it? That I hear all of this, but my mind again goes back with what it was thinking before. Whatever happened day before yesterday, whatever happened yesterday, same thoughts keep coming. Fortunately, Bhagwan doesn't bring thoughts from several years ago. The immediate experience has more prabhava. It has more effect on our mind. And this sadhaka is trying to pull that mind back. But the way to pull it back is through vairagya. There is no other way. Knowing the limitations of pursuing goals outside. Means this mumuksha has a choice. What do I want to fix? Do I want to go from this thought down below and then try to fix things outside? Or do I want to keep doing that as a sadhaka with karma yoga buddhi and strive to abide in my own swarupa as ananda? If our entire attention is on outside, then pulling mind back from this world is a very far-fetched dream. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji in Dhanyashtakam, he says that line, right? Te dhanyaha bhuvi paramartha nishtita ihaha. One meaning of that line is, blessed are those people who live in this world abiding in this knowledge. And they have this very clear knowledge that I am Drshta, not this Drshya. In that light, they do all their vyavahara. That is one meaning. Second meaning is, they do their vyavahara in such a way that they are able to abide in this knowledge. Te dhanyaha bhuvi paramartha nishchita ihaha. Meaning, keeping paramartha as their main goal, then they do all other vyavaharas. That's why Puju Gurudev in that meditation and life book he writes, right? Half an hour of meditation means 23 and half hour of alert vyavahara. The result of that is I'll be able to abide in this knowledge. Now, every indicator is very important. More we reflect upon it, more it will open up knots of the heart. Whenever I think of myself as Aham, do I think as nitya or anitya? So if I think of myself as anitya, we should ask ourselves, what am I identifying with? As this body, it is anitya. As mind, it is maha anitya. Thoughts just keep coming, thoughts just keep going away. So all those are drishya, I am drashta. The substratum of this, time. Perception of change is called as time. I am that Shuddha Chaitanya. Then all other indicators were there. All attributes are in Visheshas. All attributes are in Drishya. So Drishya becomes Savishesha. Atma is Nirveshsha. Now again, using that word Nirveshsha doesn't do anything for us. Right? I think my name is something right now. Now I have gotten a different name, which is Nirveshsha. I say, no, Nirveshsha is not another title. Nirveshsha word should remove all other titles which I have owned up for myself. Right? Because titles belong to upadhis, not to me as Shuddha Chaitanya. More we appreciate this, sadhaka will not want any titles. They'll have vairagya towards all titles because they know it is going to bind in this way. It could be a very glorious title. That's why it is said, Brahmajnani doesn't want the title of Brahmajnani. Right? Jnani means what? Person. So finitude has come through that title in this subtle way. So it is said, Brahma with Brahma eva bhavati. Knowledge of, knower of Brahman is Brahman, not knower of Brahman. Even that title he doesn't want. The last part is the uniqueness of Vedanta. That I am not witness of one thought, I am that infinite consciousness witnessing all thoughts. And you'll notice this, even as Sakshi, there is a notion that it is localized. If we don't have Mahavakya, this is Mahavakya, huh? Ekatvam cha sarvabhuteshu. Mahavakya need not always be Tattvamasi. Right? Whatever removes finitude, that is Mahavakya. So this witness of thought is infinite. This is the main teaching of Advaita Vedanta. While we try to understand this, the conditionings will become nitya. Bhagatyaga should happen. And then these words we have not introduced, but I'm sure if you have studied other texts, we'll be able to appreciate this. Even if we don't go to that point, what we should understand here is sorrow is not in a particular experience. If I'm a Vedanta student, I should recognize all sorrows have come because I think of myself to be finite. That is my first error. On top of that, there are several different layers of errors which keep happening. Okay. So until this point is the main meaning of the word Pratibodha Viditam Matam. Okay. So whatever we have to learn as a Vedanta student, that is already done. So now we are going to enter into other darshanas. Okay. If you feel overwhelmed by other darshanas, you don't have to worry. Okay. Because our darshan we have understood, right? So if you don't get what is Nyaya saying, what is Vaishesika saying, you say, I am the illuminator of that darshana. All those are Drshta in front of me. You don't have to get overwhelmed by it. But why are we studying darshanas? See, these darshanas don't live outside. When we look at each darshana, we will realize, oh, I was thinking in this way. So if we are told how not to think, that helps in abiding in our own true nature and also showing us how to think. Okay, that is the main point of studying darshana. So we'll just say an introduction. How much we need for this particular bhashya, only that much we will see. Okay. So Bharatiya Darshan is a Hindi word. Huh? I mean, what I have put here is Hindi. In Sanskritam, it should be Darshanani. So Indian philosophies or schools of thoughts. There are in total 9 schools of thoughts. 6 of them are called as Astika Darshana. 3 of them are called as Nastika Darshana. Astik Nastika does not mean that Astikas believe in God and Nastikas don't believe in God. Astika means they believe in Vedas. Nastika means they don't take Vedas as Pramanam. Interesting thing to note here is all these darshanas flourished in India, meaning nobody's voice was put down. All the main teachers of every darshana was a rishi. So much of tapasya they had, so much of depth they had to their thinking. What was common in all of them? All of them started by thinking, what is the purpose of life? They said just being stuck in our day-to-day routine, that cannot be purpose of this life, and it cannot be purpose of further lives. Right? Those who accepted Punarjanma, they thought about this. Same old things are going back, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. What is the purpose of life? What is it that we should strive for? Everybody concluded happiness is the purpose of life. Finding that joy, that is what we all are seeking. That is what we want. And sorrow which is there, to remove that sorrow, that is another goal. Both these 2 pursuits became the foundation of all darshanas. How to achieve it? everybody had different solutions, right? But thing to appreciate here is all of them are very thorough thinkers. If you say you are a darshanika, you cannot leave any experience unexplained. You have to define Jagrat, you have to define Swapna. You cannot say, I don't know about Sushupti. You have to define what is deep sleep. All of us experience some state where I'm not dreaming, I'm not awake. Who is there in that state? I have to explain why do joys and sorrows come in my life. If you say it is random, it is not any explanation, right? So every darshana has their own way of explaining. And the beautiful part is, all darshanas are together when it comes to living an ethical life. Value system which is there, all darshanas support it, and they have given their own sadhanas to enhance that moral way of living. Meaning, even if we are charvak, our life will be happy to a certain extent. Charvaka, materialist. Because in materialism, they say the first quality we need is hard work. You cannot be successful even in the material world without hard work. And all other qualities will be explained over there. Time management will be there. Resource management will be there. Runam krutva ghrutam pibet. Yavat jivet, sukham jivet, runam krutva ghrutam pibet. In their understanding was, this body alone is the supreme. There is nothing beyond this body. So what will be my pursuit? To live luxuriously and then take care of this body. For that, whatever I have to do, runam krutva, even if you have to borrow, you borrow. But live comfortably. Now we know somebody will be given something as a loan only when we have credibility, right? So for credibility, there are other qualities which are needed. So even Charvak Darshan doesn't say we can cut corners and somehow or the other be successful. Although their definition of success is very materialist, right? So we should be gunagrahi, right? Whichever darshana we can take, the good part of it, that we should take. Another thing which was common to all of them is everybody sought for that absolute truth. And they stopped at different points. Like Charvak Darshana, they said body itself is the absolute. And then there were some other darshanas which came a little bit closer. They said mind itself is absolute. You expand this mind, you make it more and more efficient. Mind itself is the absolute truth. Some came even more closer. The main point is, nobody said the absolute truth is different from you. They might have said it is this physical body, but very few darshanas have said that absolute truth is something far away. Today we will see one matam, if we get to that point. It is called as Ekadeshi Matam. Ekadeshi, Nyaya Vaishesika, Ekadeshi Matam. What is Ekadeshi? I mean, they have come far. They have come from this physical body. They said, I'm not this physical body. I'm not even prana. I'm not even the mind. But they got stuck in Vijnanamaya, the intellect. So who am I? That question everybody asked. But the answer they got was at different levels. Okay, so this is a very broad introduction to darshanas. But thing to appreciate is they were not academic topics. They were not something which was studied only in a university. It was a way of living. You know what the word darshan means, right? Darshan means the ability to see. Physicalized darshan means to see, but darshan in philosophy means the ability to look at a situation through certain lens. Now, a particular experience is there for everybody. But how I look at it will be very different based on my darshan. Right? If there is, something that goes wrong, let us say internet is not working in the house. Now 4 people get affected in different ways. Somebody is so agitated about it. Somebody might be little bit, they feel like their work is hampered, but not too agitated. Somebody is least concerned. Or outside also we see something gets delayed. Best example is the airport. When you go there, flight gets delayed. Now same delay of the flight, 200 people get affected in different ways. Now what decides how they are perceiving their experience? Their darshan. They might not technically define it, that I belong to Sankhya, I belong to Nyaya. But the way we look at things, that defines our darshan. Okay. So we'll just look at the names first. The first darshana, this falls under Astika Darshan. Astika means those who have considered Vedas as pramana. The first darshana is Nyaya Darshana, and the Acharya was Gautama Rishi. At least the names you should remember. Which darshana, who was the Acharya? Nyaya Darshana, Gautama Rishi. And Nyaya Darshana's main contribution was how to do systematic thinking. They will not utter a sentence without thinking about whether it has a reason, whether it has an example, and how it is going to prove my point. We saw this in Anumana Pramana. Okay, so Anumana Pramana is completely based on Nyaya Darshan. They say unless you have a pratijna, don't speak. Imagine how much of precision will come in our thinking. What am I trying to say? If you are saying something which is hypothetical, which doesn't have any example, they say don't speak. This is how they will debate. If you don't have Drshtanta, then your point is invalid. Anybody can say anything for that matter. At the same time, you have to support your statement with a logic, right? And then come to apply that logic, apply that example to your main point, Upanaya, and then come to conclude it. Now, this framework is used even in Vedanta. Although it belongs to Nyaya Darshan, this framework is used even in Vedanta. Another great contribution of Nyaya Darshan is in analyzing this creation. Next darshan also is together, Vaishesika Darshana. The Acharya there was Kanada Rishi. Both these darshanas go together. It's also called as Navya Nyaya. The philosophy part of Vaisheshika, and then the definitions which come from Nyaya. So they are almost, very similar. So there is one more school of thought which is combining both of them, called as Navya Nyaya. But they have analyzed each and every aspect of this creation to an extent that we cannot imagine. What is an atom? To that level they have gone. They call it Anu, Paramanu, and all different combinations of atoms. How it happens, how this material creation is formed. And it's so fascinating just to read it and to appreciate how they came to this point. All this is Upasana Phalam. Great rishis doing so much of Upasana on different things of creation, that knowledge got revealed to them. And lived such a austere life. Kanada, that name itself is popular. One who would eat the leftover grains. Kanam attiti kanadaha. Kanam means grain. Means he did not want anything from this world for himself. But what he gave was so great. Okay, that is Vaisheshika Darshan. They have different views about Atma. What is the nature of Atma? All of them differ, and that is what we will discuss over here. Okay. Third darshan is Sankhya. The main Acharya there was Kapila Rishi. Then comes Yoga Darshan. The main Acharya was Patanjali Maharshi. Sankhya and Yoga go together. So the philosophy of Yoga Darshan is based on Sankhya, not on Vedanta. Okay? Because that mix-up happens many a times. We think Yoga and Vedanta, they are similar. They are similar when it comes to sadhana. How to do Nidhidhiyasanam, we say go to Ashtanga Yoga. Raman Maharshi also pointed out. But when it comes to the philosophy, is Jagat Satyam or Mithya? Is Atma one or many? Yoga Darshan says Jagat is Satyam, Atmas are many. Means I am witness of my mind, you are witness of your mind. How many Atmas are there? As many minds are there. These are subtle points which will distinguish Vedanta from other darshanas. So both you should appreciate where it differs, where it is together. Patanjali Maharshi, it is said, he has given us great tools to take care of physical body in the form of Ayurveda, great tools to take care of this mind in the form of Yoga Darshan. So when it comes to taking care of mind, Yoga Darshan has lot of sadhanas, lot of depth is there. How this mind works, Patanjali Maharshi elaborately describes in Yoga Sutras. What is the definition of concentrated mind? He says, concentration is nothing very mystic. If the thought which has dissolved, whatever was the topic of that thought, if the thought which is rising after that has the same topic, that is concentration. He says, thoughts cannot stay continuously. It will keep changing. But if you are able to keep one Vishaya of thoughts, that is a focused mind. So like this, lot of indicators are there of mind that we can benefit from. Okay. And all other siddhis and all are described in Yoga Sutras. Next comes Mimaamsha Darshan. Mimaamsha means Purva Mimaamsha, the earlier portion of Vedas. From them we should learn how to have reverence for Veda mantras. The best description of this is Mandana Mishra ji meeting Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji wanted to debate with his teacher Kumarila Bhatta. He sends him to his student Mandana Mishra ji, who later becomes Sureshwaracharya ji. Bhagwan Shankaracharya says to debate with him is very easy because he has so much of faith in Vedas. If I prove to him what is the tatparya, what is the meaning of Veda mantras, it doesn't take much time to convince him. And he asked somebody, where is Mandana Mishra ji's house? He said the Vedas, the parrots in front of his house will keep saying, Swatah Pramanam, Paratah Pramanam. Means are Vedas an authority by themselves? Or do they need something else to establish authority? That kind of reverence they had. And Kumarila Bhattaji's story we had seen in Vedanta Sara class. Okay, I won't repeat that story. But it is just to show how much of reverence they had for Veda mantras. Now you will ask, if they had so much reverence for Veda mantra, why didn't they come to the same conclusion as Advaita Vedanta? So what portion of Vedas they chose to give emphasis to? According to that, Darshana developed. Somebody was recently asking, all of them were great rishis, right? They were so intellectually brilliant. Then how come they had different conclusion of the same Vedas? We say we should not get too surprised by this. Even in today's world, so many people study Bhagavad Gita. All of them are very, very intelligent, very learned. And you ask them, what is the main essence of Bhagavad Gita? You will be surprised to see what is their final conclusion. Somebody will say, karma is the main thing. Means after studying Bhagavad Gita, you should go and act in this world. Somebody might say, no, you have not studied 12th chapter. Devotion is the main essence of Bhagavad Gita. Somebody says, no, you didn't study 13th chapter. Mahavakya is the main essence of it. That is the main topic of So main point here is different people will look at it different ways depending upon where they choose to pay emphasis. Now, if you have to please everybody, you can say, okay, you are also right, you are also right, you are also right. But when it comes to Tattva Nishchaya, understanding nature of truth, it cannot be done that way. So you will see in Bhashya, Bhagavan takes each of their point and refutes it. Right? Truth cannot be two. It has to be one. That is how Bhashya will help us understand these. Last one is our Vedanta Darshan. Now, under Vedanta also, there are different categories, but we don't have to go there. Advaita Vedanta Darshan. Bhagavan Vedvyasya is not the originator. We say Vedas are Anadi, but in this Guru Parampara, he was one of the strongest link. One who segregated all the Vedas, gave us Brahma Sutras to have seamless understanding of Upanishads. So that is why we consider Bhagavan Vedvyasya as the Pravartaka Acharya. Pravartaka means the foremost Acharya. Now these are Astika Darshana, 6 Astika Darshana. Then we start Nastika Darshana, who don't consider Vedas as Pramana. That is the only meaning of Nastika. Don't have our own colloquial understanding of Nastik. We say, ye to Nastik hai. It doesn't believe in God. For that matter, Sankhya Darshan doesn't believe in Ishvara. Purva Mimaamsha Darshan doesn't believe in Ishvara. That is why Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi had to say, Kartuha Ajnaya Prapyate Phalam. That story you remember, right? Upadesha Sara. I mean, their understanding is karmas alone can give result. Why do you need karma phaladata? So that is how they think. So Charvak Darshan, the Pravartaka, we cannot call Acharya. One of them we can call Acharya, is Brahaspatiji, but other one is Virochana. Both stories we have seen. In Bhagavatam, Brahaspatiji story comes when Indra insults him. He says, I will teach you a lesson using your own Siddhanta. He said, you don't have to pay attention to Guru. You don't have to do any, you don't have to cultivate values. So he said, I will go down and say, and do prachara of this darshan, that you don't have to worship devatas. This body alone is the supreme. Worship that body. Nothing else is needed. So Brahaspatiji, and you'll be surprised to know there are Charvak Sutras, like how you have introductory text, right? Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha. Charvak also has their own sutras. And all these indicators are given there. Means one should be hardworking. Political science, everybody should study. Rajaniti. You see, that is their main text. So there are different ways of looking at it. But the good side of that darshana is it makes a person very, very diligent. Next darshana is Jain Darshana. The Pravartaka Acharya of Jain Darshana was Rishabhdevji Maharaj. This story also comes in Bhagavatam, where Rishabhdevji, his teachings, they were so profound. And from his teachings came this darshana. The greatness of Jain Darshana is their tapasya, their intense austerity. Even if one cannot do it, one can appreciate it and benefit from whatever little inspiration we get from their austerities. To do, those kind of severe austerities is not easy in today's world. In those times, Rishabhdevji's time also, it is said, he was, given so much of pain by the same society in which he lived. But in Kali Yuga, to do that kind of austerity, such great Mahatmas. That is the sadhana portion. Now, every darshana you can go in detail. Why did those sadhanas come into being? Because of certain other, thoughts. What is their understanding of bondage? According to that, different sadhanas will be pointed out. According to Yoga Darshana, this contact between mind and consciousness, that is bondage. So they say dissolve this mind. Shut down this mind, then you will remain only with this Atma. If that is your understanding of bondage and liberation, what will be your main sadhana? Meditation and dissolve. Vedanta says ignorance is the problem. Do Shravanam. Do other sadhanas to prepare this mind for doing Shravanam, and then reflect on this knowledge. Stay out of trouble in Vyavahara because you need an available mind. Have good sambandhas with everybody so that mind doesn't get stuck anywhere. 17th chapter Bhagavan says this is greater sadhana than standing on one leg. Right? Mind tapasya, he says. Speech level tapasya, he says. Physical body level tapasya. To have a clean surrounding. He says that is our tapasya. What I'm trying to say here is, according to our definition of bondage and liberation, our sadhanas will get defined. Okay, we don't have to go into what each darshana thought as bondage. It will become elaborate darshana vichara. Last one is Baudha Darshana. Okay, Baudha Darshan is also Nastika Darshana. They don't take Vedas as Pramanam. And Bhagwan Buddha, he did not speak much. Means you will not find sutras written by him. You will not find a lot of teachings given by him. And great Mahatmas, whatever they feel as the need of the hour, according to that, they will give the teaching. So at that time it was, people needed more of value-based teaching. So Ahimsa became his main focal point, and all his teachings was around that topic. But all the followers who came, they interpreted Lord Buddha's teaching in different ways. So whenever we say Baudha Darshana, there are 4 sub-schools within Baudha Darshan. When we see Baudha Darshana, I'll introduce that little bit. But we should just appreciate that Baudha Darshan is not one school. There are 4 different schools within Baudha Darshana. And their greatness is in proving mithyatva of this world through logic. Mithyatva means what? Just like the reality which we give to dream, they say we will reach you to a point where that same kind of reality will give to waking world. No more. And systematically, they will build their logical points to come to this understanding that Bahya Jagat is mithya. Whether mind is mithya or not, ahankar is mithya or not, that is debatable according to them. Another school went totally into void. But even they negated this world as mithya. Okay, so this is Baudha Darshan. So in this particular bhashya, Bhagavan is going to take Nyaya Darshan, he is going to take Vaishesika Darshan, and he is going to take Baudha Darshan. For which mantra are we discussing now? Pratibodha Viditam Matam. Now he will say, how have other darshanas understood this particular mantra? What is their understanding of Atma? And if you take that understanding, what are the flaws you will end up with? Okay. This is not getting too heavy, right? You all are able to follow along this part. So now let us look at objection from Nyaya Darshan. Okay. Now you can repeat. It's so nice to hear all of you chant together. Yada punar bodha kriya karta iti bodha kriya lakshanena tat kartaram vijanati iti bodha lakshanena viditam pratibodha viditam iti vyakhyayate yatha yaha vruksha shakhas chalayati saha vayuriti tadvat. So invites Nyaya Darshana first. He says, you sit down. What is your understanding of Atma? He says, Yada punaha bodha kriya karta iti. Atma is the doer of the act of illumination. Atma is not Bodha Swarupa. What did we say? Atma is Chaitanya Swarupa. It is inherent nature of Atma. And what is Nyaya Darshan saying? No, no, no. Atma has Bodha as its Kriya. Like, I am a person and I am doing the act of speaking. Correct? Kriya of speaking is happening and I am the ashraya of that act of speaking. Like that, they say Atma is the ashraya of Bodha, of knowledge. Whatever knowledge is happening, Chaitanya, whatever it is there, Atma is karta of that knowledge. Atma does the act of illumination. Now we'll see what are the flaws which will come with this. Previously, Bhagavan was again and again giving fire example. Right? He said fire is not doing act of burning, it is its swarupa. So now he says, this is your understanding of Atma. Punaha bodha kriya karta iti, bodha kriya lakshanena tat kartaram vijanati. How should you know Atma? By the act, through the indicator of knowledge. I mean, they are using anumana over here. If knowledge is happening, you should know that there is somebody who is karta of this knowledge. Bodha lakshanena viditam, pratibodha viditam iti vyakhyayate. That is their understanding of this mantra, pratibodha viditam matam. Means through every thought, through every bodha, you should do anumana of that Atma which is bodha kriya karta. What did we say? Through the thought, know Atma which is as though conditioned by that thought. It is not karta or anything. It is recognized through a thought. It is conditioned as though by a thought. It is not doing any act of illumination. So Nyaya Darshana says we should know Atma through this anumanam. Through this bodha, we should do anumanam of this Atma. Can you give an example how this anumanam is done? He says yes. Yatha yaha vruksha shakas chalayati saha vayuriti. Just like if you see leaves moving in a tree, you don't see the cause why it is moving, right? But you can do anumanam. You can say it is because of that wind that these leaves are moving. Yatha yaha vruksha shakas chalayati. The one who is moving the wind, that is Vayu. The one who is moving the leaves, that is Vayu. So like that, when you see thoughts, when you see every bodha, you should know that one who is the karta of this bodha is Atma. There is somebody who is karta of this bodha. Punaha bodha kriya karta. One who is the doer of this act of illumination. So you know what has happened, right, in this darshana? All of you are familiar with 5 koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. So they have come from Annamaya to Pranamaya. They say Atma is not Annamaya. Atma is also not Pranamaya. Atma is not Manomaya. But they say Atma is Vijnanamaya. That is why this understanding comes. It is karta. According to them, there is no Atma separate from Vijnanamaya. That is why it is also called as Ekadeshi Matam. Means in part, they are in line with Vedas. Ekadesha. But in part, they are away from Vedas. Because Vedas, Upanishads say it is not even Vijnanamaya, it is not even Anandamaya. It is Ananda Swarupa. So that is where they stop. They stop at Vijnanamaya. So main takeaway from this is, according to Nyaya Darshan, Atma is karta. Karta of knowledge, karta of illumination. And if you want to put it in a simple word, Vijnanamaya kosha itself is Atma, according to them. Okay. Now Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji gives an answer. What does he say now? Let us see. He says, if you say Atma is endowed with this attribute of consciousness, it is karta. What are the flaws that will come? He says there are 4 problems that you will end up with. He's telling Nyaya Darshan. If you say Atma is Bodha Kriya Karta, he is Shaktiman, endowed with this attribute of consciousness, then the first thing which will happen is, whatever is karta, it will undergo modification. All of you are sitting here. You say, I am karta of the act of sitting. After some time, you feel like you are tired. You start speaking, you are karta of speech. After some time, you will get tired. Means modification happening in the locus. This is Atma will become something which will undergo modification. With this, what will happen? If it undergoes modification, it will have parts. Something which is niravayava, something which is partless, cannot undergo modification. Only way for something to modify if it has parts, and those parts are having some kind of modifications. What is our example to show partless doesn't undergo modification? Akasha. Only one example we have. Akasha is niravayava, so it has no modifications, no vikara. But if you say Atma is karta, first problem is it will become modifying, it will undergo modification, and second is it will have parts. So what? Whatever has parts, the last modification is destruction. So you are striving, doing sadhana to get that Atma, which is vikari, and which is going to get destroyed. And if attaining Atma is moksha, then what kind of moksha it is? That moksha which is subject to destruction. Have you thought about these points? Bhagavan Shankaracharya is asking Nyaya. We just have to listen. We don't have to ask Nyaya. We should appreciate what are the subtle things which can come with this. Last one, he says, the final conclusion which will happen is it will become impure. Means it will get affected by that kriya. These are the sumadura phala of thinking ourselves to be karta. You give a good speech, you feel I have given a good speech. Karta, if you say, will always get affected by that kriya. That is why today's meditation we saw. Praise and criticism, that is how kartrutva and bhoktrutva expresses. Karta feels I have become greater by praise. Or bhokta feels so nice, praise is coming. And it feels hurt because of criticism. Right? So he says that is how your Atma will become. If you say Atma is karta. Four limitations. Modifications, it will have parts, it will get destroyed, it will become impure. Do you still want to say your Atma is karta, or did you change your mind? This is how they will have, Shastrartha. But we just have to appreciate these points. This is how he is refuting Nyaya Darshana. Now you see Bhashya is easy. Tada bodha kriya shaktiman atma dravyam na bodha swarupah eva bodhastu jayate vinashyati cha yada bodho jayate tada bodha kriyaya savisheshah yada bodho nashyati tada nashtabodho dravyamatram nirvisheshah tatra evam sati vikriyatmakah savayavah anityah ashuddhah ityadayah doshaha na parihartum shakyante Same thing, he is explaining now. If you say your Atma is of this kind, means in the previous slide we saw, they say Atma is Karta of Bodha Kriya. If you say Atma is of that nature, Tada Bodha Kriya Shaktiman Atma Dravyam Na Bodha Swarupaha Eva. Then Atma will become Shaktiman of this Bodha. It will become the locus of this knowledge which is there. And Bodha will not be Swarupa of Atma. Chaitanya will not be Swarupa of Atma. If you say so, then you will end up with these flaws. What are those flaws? He says, Bodhastu Jayate Vinashyati. If you say Bodha is Atma, then these thoughts which are there, they keep rising and they keep getting destroyed. Bodhastu Jayate Vinashyati cha yada bodha jayate tada bodha kriya savishesha. And when knowledge is there, when that thought is there, then Atma will become savishesha. It will become Shaktiman of that kriya, of that knowledge. Yada bodha nashyati tada nashta bodha dravyamatram nirveshsha. And then when this thought goes away, then Atma will become nirveshsha. That is how you are saying. If you say so, then what are the problems you will have? Tatra evam sati vikriyatmaka. So while that thought is there, this Atma will become subject to modification. Vikriyatmaka. And it will have avayavas. It will have parts, because only that thing which has parts can undergo modification. It will be anitya. The last modification, if you accept one modification, all six will come. That is another thing. Asti jayate vardate. Then asti jayate vardate, viparinamate, vinashyati, apakshyate vinashyati. Vinasha also will happen if you accept asti, if you accept jayate, if you accept vardate. So he says that is another flaw in your darshana. Then ashuddha means shuddhi ashuddhi of that kriya will come to this karta. What does Vedanta say? Vedanta says Atma is akarta. It has nothing to do with punya. It has nothing to do with papa. Who is karta? We say this. Ajnana kruta ahankara. Because of avidya, this notion of finitude which has come, that is this karta. Our purpose of doing punya is not to protect this karta. Our purpose of doing punya is to make sure that in vyavahara we have sukham and we can get this clear knowledge of our own nature as akarta. Somebody might ask, right? In Vedanta also you say we should do punya karma. So what is your difference? Here also you also say Atma should be, or your ahankara should be shuddha. We say the purpose of that is to make sure that we can come to study Vedanta. Nishkama punya karma, the result of that is jijnasa. Result of that is sadhana chatushtaya. The result of that is vairagya. So that is the flaw over here. If you take ahankara itself to be Atma, Vijnanamaya itself to be Atma, then that Vijnanamaya will become Ashuddha. According to them, there is no Vijnanamaya and Atma. Vijnanamaya itself is Atma. Which is, these are the flaws. It will become Ashuddha. Ityadeyaha doshaha na parihartum shakyante. These doshas you cannot get over. Okay. Now we should ask ourselves this question. Which darshana I belong to? Right? We are studying Vedanta. These are the questions we should ask. Atma always refers to Aham. Right? Aham is the meaning of the word Atma. So when I use the word Aham, do I feel I am a doer or do I feel I am akarta? some kind of, critique about our work or whatever it is, does it agitate us? That is a sign of kartrutva. Kartrutva, we never say, I am karta, I am karta. Somebody criticizing our karma, thinking that criticism to be our criticism, that is a sign of kartrutva. And slowly, if we ask ourselves, we say, yes, I do feel that way sometimes. That means we are not in Vedanta at that time, we are in this other Darshana. Right? If Atma is Aham and Atma is understood to be Karta, so that Karta Atma is not Vedanta's Atma. It is another Darshana. So then how should I do my journey from Nyaya Darshana to Vedanta Darshana? So we say, from this strong Kartrutva, bring Karanatva. Karanatva is the sadhana part. I say, I am not Karta. I am the instrument in Bhagwan's hands. Who is the instrument? Not Atma. Ahankara is the instrument. And that Ahankara, when it does Shravanam, when it gets this ability to reflect on Pratibodha Viditam Matam, then it comes to abide in its nature as Akarta. We should start with our Anubhava, and Darshana should also help us think how they have thought and whether we are falling in that category sometimes. Sometimes, or many a times, or all the time. But we should do that Sankramanam. In Sanskrit, there is a prayoga called as Kartari Prayoga, right? Where the Karta is in Prathama and the object is in Dvitiya. And second is Karmani Prayoga, where Karta goes in Tritiya. So there is a text called as Vakyapadiya, written by Bhartrhariji, where he explains grammar through Vedanta. So he says, all our journey is in sadhana to take ourselves from Kartari Prayoga to Karmani Prayoga. Means Karta from Prathama Vibhakti, taking it to Tritiya Vibhakti. Means throughout the day remembering, Bhagwan, may your will prevail. Karana means that. Karana cannot have its own independent agenda. Right? If my pen starts deciding what it should write, we will not call it Karana. The wielder will decide. So I am that Karana, Bhagwan is my wielder. In that way. But the main understanding is, I am Akarta. Ahankara vimodhatma karta aham iti manyate. Bhagwan said, because of moha, the only qualification needed to think ourselves to be karta, Bhagwan says, is moha. Delusion, not thinking about what is the nature of this aham. Okay, so Nyaya Darshana was addressed over here. Now next Darshana will be Vaishesika Darshana. Okay, that we will see in the next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. As I mentioned earlier, I was very happy to see all of you in person, but I know many of you, it will take some time to get back to your older routine to come in person. So I encourage all of you to come at least once a week, whichever class you can attend. If you are attending Saturday morning class, you can continue with that. And also another request I have, I can only request, right? I cannot order. If you are attending any class, try to be in the class few minutes before. In particular, if it is meditation, even online. If you are attending meditation session, it is so difficult to get into the zone for meditation. And if you join later, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or 10 minutes, whatever it is, so that initial preparation part gets missed. It's just a discipline that we need to put on ourselves. Online, it makes it even more easy to miss this part. Even other classes, Mangalacharanam is not optional. Okay. It is our tuning with Bhagavan to pray that may our study be effective. Okay. We'll continue with our study group in person. Any questions about Nyaya, Darshanas? We will start with second portion. Second chapter we will start with. Just a recap of Bhashya. And then any follow-up questions if we have on top of that. Okay. Hari Om everyone. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namah.